Hey guys, thank you all for being here today. So let me share a little bit. We're going to let's start over here because Jessica put together this beautiful presentation for us on vacation rentals, as you guys know. But first, I just wanted to jump in and share a little bit more information about who she is and why she is the authority on this subject. So I'm going to share a little bit about my friend Jessica. We actually met quite a few years ago and within the circle of real estate. So we were part of the same coaching program, and I've been lucky enough to be within a smaller mastermind group with her and a fellow girlfriend of ours. And we're also a part of various second home and resort groups through social media masterminds, things like that. Jessica runs a team of 17 agents and staff in Destin, Florida area with her husband, Glenn. And this marks their 21st year in real estate. So if you can believe that. So when they were just kids, they started by selling and flipping in Dallas, Texas, prior to starting what Jessica calls her salt life in Florida. Jess and Glenn have a boutique brokerage and a team called Emerald Coast Beach Homes, which specialize in helping short-term rental investors build their portfolio and net worth along the coastal Gulf Panhandle of Florida. Jessica, vacation rentals are such a hot topic in every market, especially resort markets like you and I service. So I know our Good Life community and Dave and I are so excited to learn from you today.
Well, good. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. So if you want to go ahead and share your slides,
Okay.
go for it.
All right. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for having me. I love this topic, all things short-term rentals. I'm Jessica Forrester, like Heather said. My husband and I run a boutique brokerage along the Emerald Coast, which is the Panhandle of Florida, really from Pensacola past Panama City Beach to the east. And we love what we do. So a little bit more about me. Again, I'm partners with my spouse. I'm a boy mom. I've got a 10-year-old son, Luke, and a 6-year-old son, Cade. We are 17 strong right now in our company and growing. We also run a short-term management company as well. This is a very small company. My husband and I used to own a company that managed over 100 properties. Right now, we're sitting just about at 15 and not really looking to grow that. We really take on clients that we have worked with real estate, and we've got 3 criteria that they need to meet for us to be able to take on their rental. The property needs to be nice, like updated, what a guest would like. It needs to be in about 1.5 mile radius of my house and office, which is about 1/4 mile apart. And the owners have to be nice. So one thing we learned with working over 100 vacation rentals is that life is too short to deal with owners that are unrealistic. So those are our 3 criteria now. We also are starting an agent referral company where, especially with the market turning, a lot of people are getting out of real estate, and this gives them the opportunity to still keep their license active and just refer us business and get referral checks as well. I love playing games, and of course I love the beach. I love where I live, and I put here champion of education and kindness. I think learning needs to be continuous, evolving needs to be continuous, and I constantly look for things that I can latch onto and learn. So, and kindness is super important. But I'll go ahead and get started. So I'm here today wondering if everybody that is watching is curious. Are you curious about short-term rental investment ownership for yourselves, or are you curious about selling short-term rentals and how you can best help your clients as a realtor? So I'm going to go through these things, what short-term rental investments actually are, the best areas for you to invest in. How can you determine if the investment will break even, if it'll cash flow, how much money that you're going to need down, what you can do to increase your bookings and your income, and then where to begin. All right. So what is a vacation short-term, which we call STR, short-term rental investments? And this is just an investment property that's rented out for periods of less than 30 days. This type of investment is a great way to generate income, especially if you own, like Heather said, in a popular tourist destination or a resort town. The benefits of short-term investment: many times you're going to get higher rental income than if you have a long-term investment that you get a monthly income on. It might be seasonal and it might fluctuate up and down, but typically throughout the whole year, if you average it out, your rental income is going to be higher. It's a higher nightly rate than long-term rentals, and you can usually generate more income. There's also less risks of vacancy. Again, most markets are seasonal, so a little bit of vacancy is okay. Whereas if you've got a long-term rental and it sits vacant until you find a new renter, you're really losing out money. And you've got more flexibility. What's great about short-term rentals with 90% of our clients is that they use it. They can choose to rent it for as many nights as they want, and then they can come and visit themselves. So that's a huge, huge benefit for most of our clients. Now, there are some risks, and I definitely think a short-term rental investment is riskier than a long-term, but I think the rewards are also higher. But the risks are sometimes you have a higher operating cost. You, as a long-term investment owner, your tenant pays the bills. So your tenant is going to pay the electricity and things like that. As a short-term rental investment, you're going to cover the costs of ownership. So even though they command higher nightly rates, there's going to be a risk in that. And then there's also the potential for damage. Your guests are not going to treat your property like it's their own. So there's the potential that your walls will get dinged or pieces of furniture broken. So I always tell people not to be emotionally attached to anything in the property. And then there's some regulations. Some areas are really cracking down on Airbnbs and which areas can have Airbnbs. So that's definitely something that you need to look into for the areas that you are interested in. So what areas make the best to invest in short-term rentals? And like Heather said, resort areas are definitely key. Tourist destinations, beaches, mountains, busy cities. Austin is a great STR market. And college towns also, because for football games, people, especially in the South, like to go and rent for, the weekend to go to games. So those are sometimes can be a good market to be in. Some examples are, of course, us here in the Florida Panhandle, the Outer Banks of North Carolina. They do great. Down South Florida, really all of Florida does good if you watch out for the regulations, but Key West, Hilton Head, Orlando is booming with short-term vacation rentals, as you can imagine, with Disney and Universal and all the fun things that they have there. And then you've got the mountains in Park City, Utah, Aspen, Crested Butte. Nashville is a great area. Austin, Savannah, Georgia is a great area. Charleston. So really anywhere that the tourist goes, that's where you're going to find short-term rentals. All right. Going into determining how the investment will break even or cash flow. So the great thing about short-term investments, like I said, let me get rid of that notification. The great thing about it is the flexibility. And so when people come to us and they want a short-term rental investment, a lot of times there's a little bit of emotion there because they want to bring their families here and make memories, as well as get income. So breaking even or in cash flow is not always the number one. A lot of times it's the owner, the investor, really wants to just have it pay for itself, take the tax deductions. But there are definitely properties that can break even in cash flow. Now that's going to vary from area to area. So whatever area you're interested in, you're going to want to find out that for sure. But with us, we do a cash flow analysis for our clients. We represent our clients in Florida as single agents, which means we owe them a few more duties than in Florida, transaction brokerage. And so we can do this. We can give advice. So the cash flow analysis starts right here. We'll put the buyer and the property address up here. Then we'll put the list price and then the actual purchase price that we're offering there. And in the past, we used to take a percentage off the list price, but nowadays, and definitely since COVID, sometimes we even go over that list price. But we'll put the square footage in there. And then this number right here is the most important number. This is the projected gross rental income. So this is a number that you need to be very careful about putting in. If you're doing this for clients, make sure you've got that number from a couple different sources. What we like to do is ask 3 different rental companies, management companies around here, what they think that the property could do. So a lot of times on MLS, an agent will post the actual numbers that the property has done in the past year. However, if the owners like to come use it during peak season, those numbers are going to be skewed. So we like to get an idea from management companies what they think that it will do and get a good average between 3. Now, this gross rental income is the gross before the management fee is taken off. So, and you'll see as we get down to the operating expenses, what expenses are going to come out of that. So 65,000 would be what comes in, not including guest cleaning fees, not including your county and state tourist tax, and any other fees that the management company charges. Maybe they might have a damage waiver, that's sort of like insurance fee. That's not included in this 65. All right, then we're going to look at your down payment. How much are you putting down? We're going to look at the length of the mortgage. Are you doing a 15? Are you doing a 30? And we're going to look at the annual interest rate, which of course, it was a lot easier to cash flow a couple of years ago when the interest rates were a lot lower, but absolutely we can still do it. And then we're going to look at the estimated closing costs. So here, typically, if you are financing a property, your closing costs are going to be typically around 3% of your 2 to 3% of your purchase price. And so we will come up with the estimated closing costs based on the person's loan and if they're buying down points, things like that. So over here, all the math automatically works out. I always tell our agents that use this, don't touch anything in the white, only change things that are in this turquoise right here, because all of the white, that's formulas that automatically match up. So this says right here that the initial cash out of pocket is going to be $135,000. And then we break down to our operating expenses. And so you'll see at the very top one, that's the property management fees that are going to come out monthly based on an average. So for us, our seasonality is that our busiest time is between Memorial Day and the first week of August. And so your property management fees in June and July, where you made the most money, might be 4 times that. But in December, it might be 0 because you might have no rentals in December. So that's taken an average 20%. And again, you've got to ask different management companies what they charge for management fees. Here, there's companies that charge 10%, but then you need to look at what they're nickel and diming you with. And there's companies that charge 35%, and they absolutely do everything. So property management companies are definitely not cookie cutter. If you are considering having a property manager, you definitely should interview, get recommendations from your real estate agent and interview to find out how they're going to compare, not just what the management fees look like. And that being said, you can manage yourselves. A lot of people Airbnb themselves. A lot of people do VRBO themselves. I think that if you've got a little bit of flexibility in your job to be able to answer the phone or answer emails, you can do it. And you can actually do it from, even if you don't live here. You need a really good cleaner, really reliable cleaner, and then a few different maintenance on-call people that you can reach out to. And your real estate agent should be able to give you names of HVAC companies, electricians, things like that for you to have on hand as well. It's not always fun to manage yourselves, but if you took out that management fee monthly, you can see that you definitely would increase your income. Let me know if you guys have questions on that in just a little bit. But the next thing that we put in there is the real estate taxes per year, the property insurance, HOA dues. We have a ton of condos here, and even our subdivisions pretty much all have HOAs. So we put in those HOA dues. Let me go to the next one.
And Jessica,
Yes.
before you move to the next slide, Nicholas had a question for you. When you
Sure.
were talking to the other property management companies and getting those 3 comps, which I would like to highlight, and I notated this in chat, really important. And that's just legal protection for yourself as an agent.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. So she went through that really quickly, but be very aware that is a very strong protection for you, and you do want that. I know it's extra effort, but it will protect you. Should that person come back and say this property is not performing like you said it would, that's not a conversation you want to have in the future. With that said, Nicholas had a question for you. He said, do you solely use 3 other property management companies for comps, or do you use other resources like AirDNA and Rabu?
We do not use AirDNA because I don't feel like it is localized enough. And in a little bit, I'm actually going to talk to you about a tool that we are beta testing that I think is, I was telling Heather, is pretty much AirDNA on steroids, times 1,000. So I'm hoping that will work. But right now we do not use AirDNA because they don't know our local market. And they don't know one building from the next building, and even an area 100 yards down the road might be a little bit different. And so we do utilize only the local management companies. And that being said, we don't even use the same 3 every time. We might have a building that there's 3 management companies that do a lot of business in there, but they don't do any business in the single family home neighborhood right next door. So we'll use different management companies for different subdivisions, different buildings. Good question.
That's all the questions for now. Thank you.
Okay, sure. All right, so going down the cash flow analysis, we're going to take into consideration, like I said, the taxes, your property insurance. Now notice this property insurance is low. This is obviously a condo and the HOA dues are high. So in our area, when you have a condo, the condo HOA dues are going to cover a portion of the building's exterior insurance. So your property insurance is actually going to be a lot less because it's much like renters or contents insurance. There'll be some liability clause in there for guests, but it is a lot less on a condo than it is a single family home. The HOA dues, like I said, for this particular property, they do seem high, and actually that's not very high for our area. But as we move down the cash flow analysis, you'll see all these other things right here are 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And that's because they're included in those HOA fees. The only thing that this particular property and a lot of properties in our area that you're responsible for as the owner is the electricity. So don't be scared by high HOA dues. You're going to want to look at those properties as well and look at what's included in those dues, and definitely put it in the cash flow analysis so that you can see how it works out. Just my advice to people is always not to be scared of a high HOA. All right, so coming down here, again, if this was a single family home, this property insurance would be higher, and then they might have a golf cart, and they might, all of these, they might have landscaping that is monthly or a pool that is monthly. So those fees might be different. And this, again, anything in turquoise is something that you can edit. All right, and that brings you to the monthly operating expenses. You've got your annual net operating income at 38,000 minus the debt service, which is the mortgage. And then you've got your annual cash flow before taxes. So this one does cash flow. It doesn't cash flow a ton, but it does cash flow. So it's paying for itself and then some. But the best parts are right down here, I think. This is the average loan pay down per year. Your depreciation tax benefit is here. And then the appreciation, which I put at a very conservative 3% rate. And even through COVID, I kept it at that. Even though we all know things are appreciating a lot faster, at least in our area, than 3%. But I like to be conservative. And I will tell everybody that we give all of our clients this too, that I would rather under promise and it over deliver than over promise and under deliver. So I definitely take the conservative aspect of this. Any questions on the cash flow before I move on?
I just want to share that this sheet is amazing. I love this.
And I've got, this is in a Google Sheets, and so it can be Excel or Google Sheets, and I will share that blank copy with you all for you to copy and use yourselves.
Amazing.
Yep. All right, for our clients, they always wonder when should they come, because they don't want to come when they're making the most money. And so we do a seasonality chart for our clients, and this is estimated. We absolutely tell them that this is estimated. It is going to depend on whether you have got a 1-bedroom, because that's going to stay more consistent throughout the year than a 6-bedroom house that, you know, takes 3 families to rent. Those in the off season don't do as well. They're not as consistent, but man, in the summertime, they really get a lot of income. So this is estimate and an average. Our peak season, like I said, is around Memorial Day to the first week of August. And you're going to get 50% of your year's income during that time. The rest of the year, the rates go down and the occupancy is definitely fluctuates. You'll see our winter, which is funny because we're in Florida, and I think South Florida and other parts of Florida, this is very different than where we are. The winter is their peak season because they get a lot of snowbirds, and people where it's cold want to come down where it's warm. So we're up in the Panhandle, and we are very much, our seasonality is really based around school schedules. When school is out. So spring break is a peak season for us, is a peak time for us. There's now a fall break that we get a little bit of peak, and then the holidays, but definitely during summer. So if you are considering a short-term rental, I would ask your agent if they have something like this, or if they can come up with something like this, so that you know and you're prepared to average out your income. And if you are an agent, prepare something like this. Again, it's an estimate. Management companies can help you do this. And I think it's a tool that a lot of our clients really like. All right, how much money do you need down, and what about financing? And my answer isn't great. It's going to be, it depends. And so if it is a true investment here, you are going to need somewhere between 20 and 35% down. We have a lot of condos here, and they are non-warrantable. Some people call them condotels, and this is a question that we get asked a lot. What is a non-warrantable condo? And it's just a loan that is not backed by Freddie or Fannie Mae. And so we've got to get a little creative on the financing and do a portfolio loan. Maybe it's an ARM. Doesn't mean that it's a bad product, but we've got to figure that into the cash flow analysis. So just because a condo complex is non-warrantable doesn't mean that it's a bad investment. In fact, I think 95% of our condo complexes are non-warrantable. And the reason why the loans are not backed by Fannie and Freddie is because usually one of these things, there might be a check-in desk, there might be a restaurant on site or other shops. That's a very good indication if it's a condotel. But mainly it's because a certain percentage of the ownership is investors or second home owners. They're not primary home owners. And so financing, when they do underwriting, they're going to look at that. How many people in the complex actually live in the complex? And so for some of our buildings, it's 1% actually live there. So it definitely depends. You're definitely going to want to talk to a local lender to the area that you're interested in, because it's going to fluctuate from area to area to area. A lot of times we get a client that says, oh, but I've got such a good relationship with my lender. They said that they could do a loan there. it's not going to happen. Out of state, out of area is, if they don't know our condo buildings, very, very few times we can get to closing. There are the occasion we've got some lenders. I've even got a lender in Texas that he can do them here, but typically, if we get an offer in and we're representing the seller and we see that the pre-qual is from a lender out of state, out of area, even somebody in Orlando, we're going to want them to get pre-qualified by somebody that's local as well. I hope that makes sense, but definitely talk to your lender about your options. All right. What can I do to my property to increase bookings and income? I love this part. This is something I think that we do above and beyond on our team by helping our owners with things like this. I think our management experience has gotten us to be able to even give the smallest of changes. So professional photos are going to sell. That's how people book your property, is by the photos on Airbnb and VRBO and the management company's site. So you definitely want professional photos. Fresh paint, I think, is always a good idea. Your walls are going to get banged up, especially if you've got a corridor or hall where suitcases are coming in and out of. So fresh paint and touch-ups, I think that's great. My favorite way of increasing bookings and income is the sleeping configuration. And no, you don't want to cram 20 people in a house that really should only sleep 10, but you can do fun things with the sleeping configuration, like instead of a twin over twin bunk bed, do a twin over a queen, or even a full over a queen. Do a little trundle under the bunk bed. Any room, second bedroom that has, if there's, let's say there's only 2 bedrooms, I love an option with a queen bed on the bottom and a bunk on the top. And I think of even myself. So we've got our 2 kids and my parents, and we travel. If we stayed in a place with 2 bedroom, that would be fine. My parents could stay in the master bedroom. My husband and I would be great on a queen bed, and the kids could sleep in the bunk beds and trundle, or even a pull-out sofa. So I always try to think about who is going to be staying in the property and how to increase the sleeping configurations. And the other point on that is too, when you've got a second bedroom like that, a lot of people say, well, I've got a sleeper sofa, so I can, people can sleep on a sleeper sofa. I don't know if you've ever slept on a sleeper sofa, but nobody loves to sleep on a sleeper sofa. And the other thing, when you're on your vacation, if you've got the sleeper sofa open, you've got to close it every day and then take it out every night. And so if you've got an option in the other bedroom where, let's say your property, might sleep 8, but 6 people might find it a lot more comfortable to have the option to sleep in that other bedroom rather than pull out the sleeper sofa. I put on here, less is more, definitely an updated design. A lot of knickknacks and stuff everywhere is not going to be a good idea, especially with kids coming. Definitely less is more, and your local agent should be able to help you with that design, or even looking at the management company should even looking at your competition and seeing what they're doing. I like to have small touches like a spice rack, outlets with a USB, or maybe even an alarm clock with a USB or a type C, having some games on there in the unit, some books. One of the biggest things that you can do to increase your bookings and income, even if you have a property manager, is stay on top of your rates. If you've got a property manager, in most cases, they're letting some AI algorithm do your rates. I'm not a proponent of that. I don't like that because rates fluctuate, and you don't want to be priced higher than your competition, or else you're not going to be getting the bookings. So I like to look at the competition very locally and very focused, and adjust rates based on that. If you have a house and golf carts are permitted, a golf cart is a fabulous way to increase your bookings and income. Here we have they need to be street legal golf carts, and you can really get so many places in the golf cart. And then if you've got a house too that maybe doesn't have a pool, and I know especially in the mountains, this is a great feature, is to add a hot tub. But even here at the beach, adding a hot tub is a great thing. Even it's just great when the kids come back from the beach just to, have somewhere to splash around that, or maybe the hot tub is covered so you're not in the sun all the time. And I know I'm going sort of fast here, so Heather, just stop me if there's any questions. And I am coming up to the end. So where do I begin? Where do I begin if I want to learn more about short-term rental investments? And I think interview realtors in the areas that you're interested in. I would ask them what percentage of their business comes from short-term rental sales. I think it's super important that the realtor have some experience with short-term rental. I think it's even a bonus if they've owned any themselves or managed any themselves. There's nothing like hands-on learning in education. We learned when we were managing over 100 properties, we learned a lot of what not to do. So I think that's always a good thing if your realtor can give you that sort of advice. And like I said before, you're going to want to talk to a lender local to the area that you're interested in. And then this is where I was talking about the investor analyzer tool. We are beta testing an investor analyzer tool again that is supposed to be 1,000 times better than Air DNA. And so far, we're absolutely loving it. Our clients are loving it. It is specific to our area, but if anybody is interested in other areas, I can find out what agents are using this tool in those other areas so that you could sign up under them and use the tool for free. But reach out to me, even if you're not interested in the Destin area, reach out to me. I will help you. I will help you find an agent in another area that I know through Heather and I's network of colleagues will do a good job directing you. And also the agents that deal with short-term rentals, realize that we know that you're just dreaming. A lot of times we know that it might not come to fruition. So your agent should not be pressuring you in any way. We we call it lead stage to actual conversion is a very long time because we do a lot of nurturing, because at the very beginning, people are saying, is this right for me? They've got to do some research and get educated to see if it makes sense for them. But the best thing is, I think, is that a lot of times people don't realize how easy it is to own a short-term rental and how it pays for itself and what good tax benefits that you have. So I always love it when we get a walk-in in the office and they're like, oh, I would love to own a short-term rental, but that's never going to happen. And, we dig a little bit deeper and figure out, why isn't it going to happen? And then all of a sudden we're making it happen. To me, that's that absolute best. I think that's all I've got on this page. I've got where we serve, and I'll give you my slides too, Heather. But this is a QR code to our link tree, which has all of our contact information, our social media. And so just reach out to me if you want that. If you want to play around with that investor tool, I'm happy to share that. I'll share the cash flow analysis, our seasonality chart, whatever tools I have, I'm happy to share.
I love it. So everyone, Jessica has been kind enough to share the resources that she went through, the analysis sheet, the seasonality chart. We're going to go ahead and follow up and share those resources with you. So thank you, Jessica. These are
Absolutely.
amazing.
Yes,
Absolutely.
thank you so much.
Yeah, I feel like you took a subject that I think it can be overwhelming for someone that's entering a new market and they're trying to understand the neighborhoods, the property, their financing. If it's a competitive market, they're navigating all of those emotions and details of just trying to get a property locked in, but then concurrently trying to figure out what property is the best from a short-term rental. And I feel like you really were able to summarize all this into a really clear sheet and tools that is going to be so helpful for us personally.
Yeah, I hope so. And I always tell our clients too, is give yourself grace, especially the ones that are first-time short-term rental. Don't try to understand it all right away. Let's take it step by step. We don't need to be interviewing property management companies or looking at what the property management company is going to provide until we find that property. So take it step by step and, try not to overwhelm yourselves to get all the information and really know your motivation. Like it's so funny because we'll get somebody that goes, this is pure investment. This is pure investment. And then the partner or wife or spouse or whatever comes in and she's like, yeah, but I really want it to be on the beach and we've got 3 kids. So it needs to be 3 bedrooms. And, maybe a 3-bedroom isn't the best investment. Maybe a 1-bedroom with bunks really is the best that might cash flow, but she's offsetting her emotional needs with the investment part of it. And that's okay. So you can still do good. But if you are a real estate agent entering the short-term rental market or serving the short-term rental market, you really need to get all parties that are involved and find out their separate motivations. And hopefully you can come together and find something that meets everybody's needs.
100%. David, thoughts?
I actually had a couple questions for you.
Sure.
So something in Denver that we're running into is Denver has regulated short-term rentals, but surrounding areas haven't.
Yep.
So when you're looking in an unregulated area, is your advice just to stay away until the local government has rules in place, or how are you approaching that?
That is a great question, and you need to be very diligent about looking at the regulations. And hopefully, that's another reason why it's so important to use a real estate agent that is familiar in your the local area that you are considering, because regulations are changing. And so the last thing you want to do is buy a short-term rental, and that's your purpose for it. And then in a year, you're not allowed to do short-term rentals. In our area, we don't, thankfully, knock on wood, have to worry about that. We don't have very many resorts or hotels. Our economy is 80% short-term rentals. So we don't necessarily have to worry about that here in the Panhandle and Destin, but I know, some of the bigger cities do. So I wouldn't back off from anything, but I would educate myself and definitely work with an agent that knows what they're talking about.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that. And then one other question for you. When you were talking about paying attention to your competition and adjusting rates, how often are you shopping the competition and making adjustments?
That's a great question. And, we've got a property manager now. When my husband and I were all hands-on, I probably was a little bit anal and maybe did it a little too often. But I don't like to see nights go unbooked. But right now, I would say definitely once a quarter. And then when you see, like, it's April and I've only got 1 booking in April, and April really should be half full or 3/4 full. And it's, March and April's coming up. I'm looking weeks ahead and looking at what the competition is offering and what pricing they have. And I think because we're a small boutique company, we have the luxury of being able to do that. I think some of the bigger management companies, they just don't have they've got too many properties to be able to do that. So that's something to think about too, when you're looking at different management companies. Do you want somebody that's really big that has a wide reach, or do you want somebody that is going to pay more attention to your individual property?
It's really great points. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then, sorry, I have one more question.
Sure.
Just came up. So, liability on golf carts. You said Adam, if you can, what's your opinion on all that? I saw that you
Okay, that's a really good question. And most of the single family homes here have a golf cart. In order to get a good insurance policy that is not outrageous on it, you have to include it in the rental. You can't charge extra for the golf cart. So, for example, if the price for the home for the week was $5,000, it needs to be $5,000 and it comes with the golf cart. Whereas the house next door, the price might be $4,000, but you can't give them the option to rent the house with or without the golf cart for a fee. If you do that, it's like you own rental cars. So the insurance for that, you can get it, but it's crazy. I think one of our clients that was trying to do it, the insurance last year was $6,000. So
oh my gosh.
yeah.
Jessica, can I piggyback off of David's question there? Because I think this is a great question. So for vacation rentals, there's a lot of the insurance companies, right? Like CSA Travel,
Uh-huh.
for example.
Yep.
And I know that, for example, pet-friendly properties, if you have a rental agreement in which you acknowledge and approve them bringing a pet, and then there's damage from the pet,
Mhm.
then that insurance will cover any damage from the pet. If it does not state that you allowed the pet, then any damage from that animal is not protected. So
Right.
question, does the golf cart tend to follow in that same capacity, that if you acknowledge that it's a part of the rental, then even though it's a vehicle that's separate from the house, it's covered under that same CSA insurance?
Yes, absolutely. And insurance is going to be different per. So we have damage waiver, what you're talking about, and we also offer travel insurance as well. Personally, like when I book things, Airbnb, I don't take their travel insurance. I rather get my own, because I feel like you can get more coverage for less. But it is real easy to add on travel insurance, and I do think every time you book something that is a short-term rental, and even when I travel that you should get travel insurance, because you never know what's going to happen. And these are owned individually. So cancellation policies are strict. I always feel so bad, like when somebody says, we can't come, my mom just broke her foot and we can't go to the beach, and that, they're 2 days away and we can't give you a full refund because this is owned by an individual that is counting on that money, and they could have had it booked with somebody else, but now there's not enough time. And so getting that travel insurance, I think, is a huge deal for starters. But don't try to don't try to bring pets where they don't belong. You're gonna get in trouble. And same with smoking. The smoking fines are huge. But yes, if you go into a property and you've got damage, just be honest about it. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to be covered.
And Jessica, thank you for the clarification. I was using the term insurance, but like Jessica talks about, the language is damage waiver.
Yes.
For what we were specifically addressing. And then there is also travel insurance, which is different than a damage waiver. That covers you in case of unexpected events happening and you can't make the trip.
Right. So for example, we hold in-house damage waiver insurance. So it makes it so much easier that, it just goes into our own pool, and that if there's a problem, we don't have to file a claim with a third-party company and get it approved. We just know we can replace that table easily. So, but that covers the guest up to $1,500 for accidental reported damages. So if they leave and don't tell us that they broke a table, then they're going to be charged.
Yeah. I know we're getting pretty deep in the woods here, into the weeds here. If you're comfortable, I know we are getting into quite a few questions on you here.
Sure.
For agents that are representing a seller and that have this question. So whether it's in-house, so you guys have your damage waiver in-house, some people use third-party companies, regardless, when the damage for their client exceeds the damage waiver, that $1,500, will you walk them through the process of how the client is then protected?
Okay, so one thing that we tell our clients, and whether we're managing their unit or not, is don't buy things that cost more than $1,000. So don't buy a sectional sofa that's $2,000. Buy something that is 2 pieces that's $1,000 each, or don't buy a dining room table that's $2,000. And even if it's a nicer property, even if it's a luxury property, Rooms to Go still makes very nice furniture, and furniture needs to be replaced. It gets worn. So that's number one, is that we try to keep our clients from owning anything that the damage waiver won't cover. But if the damage goes above, the guest is going to be charged. And usually, I don't think we've ever had it happen where the guest, I'm trying to think. It has been a while. We probably have in the past, but I can't remember a time where the guest didn't take ownership and feel really bad that, the damage was really bad and they paid for it.
Yeah. I think it's important to remind your client, and this is just getting into the weeds a little bit, but when people talk about vacation rentals, it is important that you work with somebody like Jessica that fully knows these details, because you do have damage waivers, and that might cover a coffee table, a rug, things like that. But if the damage exceeds that and you're not able to collect from the client, then it's important that they have the right insurance in place and they're not hiding the vacation rental from their insurance company, right? They have the incorrect insurance. They claim that they're getting that special rider on their insurance, and then they will be protected.
Right. And you also have to realize, we tell our clients and owners this too, is that you are sharing this property with other people. And again, they're not going to treat it like you would treat your home. Well, that's not true. So that's not true. I would say that half of the people treat it better than their own home. But the half that doesn't, you're going to get damaged. Things are going to get broken. So you cannot be emotionally attached to this picture on the wall or this, dining room centerpiece. And your walls are going to get, dinged, and you're going to have holes places. So you've got to know that comes with the ownership of it. And hopefully you've got a good management company that's staying on top of it. But every year there's probably in your off season going to be some touch-ups that need to be done, or pictures replaced, or a couch.
Agreed. That should just be expected as part of your operating costs.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. Okay, here's another change of gears here for a question for you. In Crestview, we have very specific details in the home that are important to clients, right? One that's really random is king bed, a property that has like the primary bedroom as a queen bed versus a primary bedroom that has a king bed. The gross rental numbers at the end of the year are vastly different. It surprises people.
Absolutely.
So can you share with us in your market, because you're the expert in your market, what are some odd things that make a huge difference?
It's funny that you said that. And I agree 100%. Even if you've got a 2-bedroom place and you don't want to put that queen bunk bed in the second bedroom, put a king bedroom in the second bedroom as a king. Because again, a lot of times you've got two couples, like my husband and I and my parents, and everybody likes a king bed better. So I think a king bed is absolutely key. Trying to think about little things like that. I mean, the golf cart makes a big difference. Beach service here. We've got beach service on a lot of subdivisions and condos. And that just means the owner paid an extra, maybe $1,500 to $2,000 for the year for 2 chairs and an umbrella to be set up every day for their guests. That's a huge deal here. I'm trying to think of other little things that, it's really like, I don't know if people do this there, but also people come to the beach and then they want to decorate it so coastal that it's like a little bit of, they're throwing up like any little thing that says beach or coastal or whatever. And I think moderation and simplicity is key. We've still got some of the old yellow walls back, from 20 years ago that was popular. So I just think the updating and moderation is key.
Amazing. All right. Any final thoughts? We have a referral we'll share with you after this, Jessica. And then any other questions, David?
I don't think so. This was super helpful. I love that you told us not to throw up beach on everything when we buy.
So don't throw up mountains. Don't throw up.
Right. Leave your flannel at home, Heather.
Hey, actually, I am at home, so I did leave it at home.
But anybody is welcome to reach out to me for any reason, even if it's not my market. I'm happy to help in any way.
Thank you so much. This was amazing.
Thank you guys for having me. I love talking about it. I'm sure I went on and on, but
phenomenal.
It was great.
There were so many gold nuggets here that I feel like a lot of people are going to want to watch the replay, definitely get their hands on your resources. And I just imagine everybody on this call coming back, and either for their own personal use or with the client. I'm actually thinking sitting down with the client and you whip out the spreadsheet that you're sharing with us.
Yeah.
And it's instant credibility.
Yes.
As a professional.
Yep, absolutely. I think that helps us stand out from our competition. Definitely unique value proposition.
Yeah. And Jacqueline says, Jess is a book of knowledge. The cash flow sheet is key.
Jacqueline's on my team.
All right. Well, anything else, guys, before we wrap up today's webinar?
No, I'm good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jessica. All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you next week.
All
Bye,
right,
guys.
bye.